You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
All right, folks, where reason meets reality. Welcome to the Capitalist Corner. I'm your host, Mark Pellegrino, and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair of the American Capitalist Party, Michael Liebowitz, who is also the host of various and sundry shows on this and other platforms. Michael, what's going on with all your shows? Can you tell us, please? Keep us up to date.
Nikos Sotirakopoulos. Great episode out right now on The Rational Egoist. I interviewed Nikos concerning intellectual activism. Very, very good discussion. I highly recommend people go and listen to that on The Rational Egoist. Check this out today, 2:30 here. We got Everyday Ethics, and Mark and I will be discussing self-efficacy on Saturday for Self-Made Soul, assuming Mark does the requisite reading.
Yes, it's only a 24-page paper, so I hope to get around to it tonight or tomorrow. In addition to all the cinema I have to watch, Michael, because I also have a horror roundtable going, and I'm still missing one and a half.
You're watching porn?
3 movies. Horror
Porn?
roundtable, not a porn roundtable.
I thought you said horror roundtable.
No, horror roundtable. So I'm finishing up the Whisper, the Whistle right now.
So is horror, does that mean it's more of a whore? Like, she's horror than her.
Folks, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about Tulsi Gabbard's testimony before Congress today, before the committee. What is it, on intelligence and threats, worldwide threats. Michael, that was interesting. And I've only seen bits and pieces of the testimony. I haven't watched the whole thing. I don't know that I would be able to stomach the whole thing, to be honest with you, because there's only so much subterfuge and only so much denial that I can take before I go insane. I am starving for a government that is fully transparent, and I never seem to get it. Right now, it seems like Tulsi Gabbard, who is against the any war in Iran or against any quote unquote, I'll use their terms. Well, and in her history, she's been against the heavy use of American armed forces abroad for just any reason whatsoever. But now that brings her into conflict with the Trump administration, and like a dutiful little soldier, she seems to be going behind. The soldiers are now circling the wagons around Trump because, of course, when he speaks extemporaneously, the administration has to do a lot of damage control, and it seems to be doing a lot of damage control now. What did you make of her testimony, Michael?
Well, why don't we take a look at some of it, and then we can discuss it, right? So let's just check this out. This is her exchange with John Ossoff.
Community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
In the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, "There has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability," end quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
Yes.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, "a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime," end quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, "the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime." Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, "imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime," yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False. This is the worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, "there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability." Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, "imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime"? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay, so first of all, we all should know that had it been the intelligence community's determination that it was an imminent nuclear threat, she would have just said yes. Right? It wouldn't have been all this song and dance. Now, the thing is, the reason this imminent matters, right? Because I was talking to Jim Valiant this morning, and Jim made a good point when we were having a discussion. His point was that for the moral case for going to war, it doesn't matter if they're an imminent threat or a threat 10 years from now. And I think he's right. However, for the constitutional point, Trump has to make it that it was an emergency. And that's why he did not go to Congress.
Yeah, so I mean, Tulsi Gabbard's right in this sense. When Alan Dulles and his brother were forming the intelligence community and putting it into this civilian hands with the CIA and to fight the Red Menace, the idea behind the intelligence community was that they would provide information for the executive so that he could make split-second decisions with respect to how to deploy the armed forces. That was really the intention behind Alan Dulles starting the intelligence community. Before, Michael, it was just a purely military department. There was an intelligence department within the Army and within the various branches of the military. Then the CIA was born, and this was what the purpose of the CIA was to inform the president. And the president, according to all these folks in the intelligence community, does have that. He does have the say as to whether the information they are giving him should be interpreted as to mean an imminent threat. However, if there is an imminent threat, Michael, as we've discussed a dozen times or more on this program, it's incumbent upon the president to make his case to the American people, since they are the ones who will be bearing every single particle of the cost of the war. And that's what the appeal to the Congress is supposed to be, so that the Congress can make a declaration of war. I mean, the bad side of one of the many bad sides of this, Michael, is that with the executive as capricious as Trump, he has full command over what's happening now in policy, which we can see is confused. It's myopic. They don't know where they're going. They don't have an end game. But with a formal declaration of war, with the Congress behind them and the people behind them, they can have a much clearer policy to defeat the enemy.
So first, we've got a $5 super chat from Jenna Kleem. She says, Afro Man, I think that's you. And we've got a super sticker for €5, I think that sign is, from I am Regina 24. Thank you both so much. Persephone, can you do me a favor and just find out for me what the purpose of the hearings is? Because I want to know if the congressman, the senator that was talking, is correct that the purpose is for the intelligence community to give Congress the threat assessment. Please find that out. I want to play this also, Mark. I think we got $3 super sticker from Nicole Hingle. Nicole, thank you very much. So check this out. This is Castro. He's one of the twins.
The objectives that have been laid out by the president are different from the objectives that have been laid out by the Israeli government.
And how do they differ?
We can see through the operations that the Israeli government has been focused on disabling the Iranian leadership and taking out several members, obviously beginning with the Ayatollah, the supreme leader. And they continue to focus on that effort.
And how does that differ from our goals?
The president has stated that his objectives are to destroy Iran's ballistic missile launching capability, their ballistic missile production capability, and their Navy, the IRGC Navy and mine-laying capability.
So the death and destruction continues. The economic cost to the United States, to Israel, to the Gulf states, and to the world continues to increase. So I want to ask you, to the best of your knowledge, do you know whether Israel is supportive of the president's call to make a deal with Iran?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, Persephone, there's also, right there, that's the one I wanted to see. This is what I wanted to show you, Mark.
And I appreciated Dr. Gabbard, your comments yesterday about agreeing that the president has sole authority, I guess, in his bones to declare whether something is an imminent threat. I didn't agree with your friend, Mr. Kent, but I didn't, again, I agreed with him yesterday on the fact that there was no imminent threat. I guess what I'm concerned about, one thing is, even in your printed testimony today on page 6, and your last paragraph on page 6, as a result of Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated. There's been no efforts to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. You omitted that paragraph from your oral opening. Was that because the president had said there was an imminent threat 2 weeks?
No, sir, I recognize that the time was running long, and I skipped through some of the portions
So you chose to take
of my oral delivered remarks.
You chose
sir.
to omit the parts that contradict the president. The president.
All right, so let me just state this. I ultimately don't know how this war is going tactically, strategically. I don't know. I'm not, there's a lot of information. I will say this, though. There are parallels right now that I see between this and what was going on with Iraq. What I mean by that is this. During the Iraq war, the media was presenting a lot of information that things were going wrong. The defenders of the war, I was one of them, and the media I was listening to were saying, no, this is bullshit. It's going much better than what they're saying. I'm currently seeing that as well, where people are saying the media is lying. Maybe they are. It's not my point. What I know unequivocally, though, is that this lady is not doing a good job answering these questions. Her claim that she just wanted to be timely, and that's why she omitted the one part that was going to contradict Trump, seems ridiculous to me. Her not being more forthcoming seems ridiculous. We'll show Ratcliffe. I thought Ratcliffe did a much better job in answering questions. But Trump's statements publicly have been horrible about not supposed to be there. He didn't know that that Iran was going to attack all these countries, and what we're going to get to soon about blaming Israel for something. This is all bad. I'm not relying on the mainstream media to inform me of that, right? We can hear these people talk for themselves, Mark.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, I think the fault is less with, well, I can't say this really. I was going to say less with Tulsi Gabbard, but she's circling the wagons around the president, which I think is dishonest and unfortunate, and to me shows a drive for power over the truth and principles. But in her, I think I want to posit something sort of in her favor here, because she has a president who speaks off the cuff and says things that the entire administration has to cover for, because he can't speak extemporaneously. In fact, they should muzzle the guy because he doesn't know how to speak extemporaneously, and he doesn't understand the fact that everything he says, every word he says, is being parsed by everybody out there because it has incredible weight. Now, you and I wish the president didn't have such incredible weight. If we lived in a free society, he wouldn't. You and I would have weight with respect to our lives. But right now, the American people have created a situation where the government is very, very powerful, and they have a lot of say-so over your life. That's why voting is important now. And that's why everything the president says is important now, because it can impact your life. And Michael, he does not know how to address policy issues without improvising really stupid things.
Yes. Persephone, can you find me the clip with John Ratcliffe testifying? I sent it to you. I want to say this. So just what I had Persephone look up before. The core purposes of these hearings: annual threat assessment, providing public and private briefings on top state adversaries, including China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. It seems to me that a threat assessment means that you assess the threat, right? You tell us what the threat is, which she would not do. And by the way, I'm not even if the intelligence said that they were not an imminent threat, intelligence can be wrong. And not only that, but different intelligence people can disagree. It was just her obvious discomfort and unwillingness to answer the question. Persephone, can you not find the Ratcliffe testimony? Want me to resend it to you? Mark, go ahead. Tell a story or something, and let me find this so I can send it to.
Oh, I may be hearing something at my front door, so I might have to actually. I'm not sure yet if the person is here to take care of the business he has to take care of. Yeah, Michael. I mean, there's a certain amount of confusion. I personally, from the news sources that I get, and like you, I peruse a lot of news sources, and I also listen to some objectivists who are pro-war, namely Yaron Brook, who I think is more of an expert on that region than most objectivists out there. And he makes a good case for aspects of the war going very well. The degradation of the armed forces, the obliteration of the Navy, and the fact that what the media points to as the deconcentrated leadership of the Iranian armed forces, the IRCG, being so difficult to overcome is actually working in our favor, because the more we decapitate these people, the more incentive they have to rebel and fight one another. That's not an illogical case to me. But what we see with the administration, Michael, is a failure of a coherent policy. I really think, and I could be wrong here, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Trump initially went in because he drew a line in the sand, and
I don't even remember, Mark.
Yeah,
I don't even remember.
Yeah, he drew a line in the sand. He said to the Iranian people, help is on the way. He was clearly influenced by the mass demonstrations in the streets. He's a populist. He wanted to be on the good side of everybody's. He's that guy. So he said what he thought was important in the moment. But that, like everything else he says, is taken to be an extremely impactful and significant thing to say. And so he sort of hamstrung the administration to regime change.
Yeah.
And now he's had to walk back that ever since.
Right. And, yes, he said that, but then there were people from the administration said not a regime change. The goals have shifted. He said, no, they should stay in. And then talking about the Straits of Hormuz, maybe we shouldn't even be here. It makes it a very difficult thing to sort of, go through. Rob Lankenheath, thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, was there an Islamist imminent threat on September 10th, 2001? I think that is not the way to look at things. And I'll tell you why. Because are we to go to war with every country on the planet under the assumption that they might be an imminent threat? I mean, you simply can't operate that way. And the argument is that that Trump has said, I guess, they were an imminent nuclear threat, while his intelligence says something different. The intelligence has been wrong before, but the alternative to going by the intelligence is what? The president of the United States, whoever that happens to be, gets to decide on his own who the threat is and go to war with anybody he wants. That is not, the way to do things. But I'll tell you what, it was known that bin Laden was a threat. I had heard of bin Laden before September 11, 2001. The day that it happened, a friend of mine said to me, I'll bet it was bin Laden. And that seemed like, of course, the obvious, oh my God, I'm going to get a headache. Chandler, nobody said we should go to war to every country. Can we think in principle for 5 minutes here? If the argument is because we didn't know that there was an imminent threat on 2001, and if we don't know there's an imminent threat from Iran now, we should still go to war with Iran, then the argument would be, how do we know which country to go to war with if we don't rely on our intelligence telling us? That's the point, is you can't know. Obviously, no one said go to war with everybody, but what is the implication? The implication is that the president of the United States gets to decide to whom we go to war with. And, I'm sorry for my impatience. I thought about my impatience this morning, Mark. Can I tell you why?
Go ahead.
So Dave Smith had previously said that anybody that basically he said to Dinesh D'Souza, because Dinesh D'Souza had advocated for the Iraq war in 2003, he should never be listened to again on foreign policy issues. So Dave Smith said today that he was wrong about Tulsi Gabbard, right? He was wrong because he called her a hero, the great Tulsi Gabbard, all that. So I put a post and I said, Dave, you've previously said that people shouldn't be listened to who supported the Iraq war, but then why should you be listened to when your judgment was so wrong about Tulsi? My point, obviously, to me, isn't that if somebody's wrong, their judgment shouldn't be listened to. It's that if you're going to hold this standard, then hold it for yourself and don't be a hypocrite. But nevertheless, people don't get that because they aren't thinking in principle, and that annoys me. So I want to be more patient, and I want to say, so Chandler, you tell me, Chandler, now, if we don't have an assessment, go back to where the questioner said, September 10th, 2001, and we don't have an assessment that anybody is an imminent threat, to whom should we have gone to war with on September 10th, 2001? That's what I want to know. And then I want you to extrapolate and tell me right now, if the intelligence says Iran is not an imminent threat, to whom should we go to war with? To the Russians with the Russians and the Chinese? Should we knock them out? How are we going to determine? That's what I want to know. Who should we go to war with? If we're not going to accept the intelligence, do we accept what Trump says? Trump wanted to take Greenland, he said. Trump is now also talking about taking Cuba. Trump also said it was in our interest to go take Venezuela because the president was coordinating with terrorists who were coming here, and these new narco terrorists. So by what criteria do we decide to whom to go to war with? My point is, if you don't have criteria, then it's with anybody the president decides. So that's my question for Chandler. And Gary Menard, thank you for the $2.99 super sticker. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. So do you want to talk more about this intelligence hearing? Or
I do want to play John Ratliff, because John Ratliff did a much better job. Or is it Ratcliffe? I'm not sure. But either way, he did a much better job than Tulsi Gabbard. So let's hear what he had to say.
And I appreciated, Dr. Gabbard, your comments yesterday.
Oh, no, wrong one.
Agreeing that the president.
Sorry. I think it's up here. Oh, no, you didn't post it, Persephone. I sent it to you, though. I just sent it to you. I texted it to you. Don't give me a dirty look. Oh, no, I sent you the wrong thing. I'm sorry. It's always me. I always blame poor Persephone, and it turns out it's me. What are you going to do?
But we know that by now. So we sort of accept that you're going to say the wrong thing.
That's true.
Or do the wrong thing.
You got a point. So after I find this, we can get to... okay. Let's see. Let me send this to Persephone. Okay, I did. Yes, you are vindicated again, Persephone. I sent you the wrong clip, and it's my fault. Now my judgment should never be trusted again. But really, if we're going to be honest, my judgment when it comes to tech issues should never be trusted anyways. Mark, what happened? What's the story?
Nothing. I'm waiting for the clip to come up.
Oh, you just wait. I thought you were going to have a conversation, talk about something. Yeah, so the bottom line is the communication on this thing is terrible. Can we agree to that?
I think so. I think anybody can agree to that. I think the administration is searching for a policy right now. They're also searching for a way out, Michael. I mean, that's been going on for the past couple of weeks. The indications, I think, from Trump that we can get out anytime we want, that there's no more targets left, which is not true. It just shows that he doesn't have any clear policy at all. I mean, there was a the question where our policy is different from Israel's policy. Israel's policy is clearly regime change, and that's why they're sending drones into Iran and taking out the besieged checkpoints, and they're taking out the besieged, the secret police of the regime that's been shooting people in the face who are protesting, because their intention is to turn the regime around. They've also been sending messages in Farsi to the leadership of the IRGC and also the besieged, saying, "Give up, go to be ally of the people, and resist the regime now." And so they have a clear policy, unlike us, Michael.
Is there any evidence that there's people within the military or within the Republican Guard are getting ready to turn on the regime. Is there any evidence that this has happened? Because I've seen it said that there's none, but I haven't seen every source out there. So
nor have I. I mean, I've seen posts from supposed besieged officers who are standing in front of besieged headquarters that have been abandoned. And they're saying that, many of the officers have gone home. They're begging that, and this could be made, it could be made up. I don't know. But I have seen one or two videos of some folks saying there's desertions, headquarters have been abandoned. Lots of people are going home and praying to God that the Iranian people don't exact revenge on them for all the terrible things they've done to them. So I have seen a video or two. I don't know what it means.
Okay,
Wait a minute.
I just want to say,
go ahead.
Well, just Persephone can't share the clip because it's from Fox News. So I'll just say this. He was asked, in essence, was there an imminent threat coming from Iran? And he answered, and he said that had they not been deterred, they would have been a threat. He didn't explicitly use the term imminent, so it was probably, a more strategic answer. But nevertheless, he came off as far more competent than Tulsi did. That was my point. Before we get to Rand Paul, you want to, because I don't want to jump from Iran to Rand Paul and then back to the war. So you want to talk about what Trump came out and said on social media?
Yeah, let me read it straight out because it's horrifying. Sorry to give my editorial response to it before I even read it to anybody.
That's all right.
But here's what Trump put on Truth Social. Forgetting once again that he's the president of the United States and that everything he says has massive international impact and domestic impact. That's the only thing I can think of with this guy. Here's what he says, folks. Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack. Michael, this already doesn't look good that he's washing his hands of it. And the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea that it was going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facility. No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case, Qatar, very innocent, in this case, Qatar, in which instance the United States of America, or without the help and consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran. But Qatar's LNG is again, if Qatar's LNG is again attacked, I will not hesitate to do so. Thank you very much for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. What say you, Michael?
Well, first of all, it's just a scummy thing to do, right? He's basically throwing Israel under the bus. And it's grotesque that he did that. Secondly, that was actually the official White House statement. They posted his Truth Social post. But according to Axios, Trump's comments that seemed to be an effort to de-escalate the situation came hours after he greenlit the Israeli strike on the facility that marked a significant escalation in the war. The Israeli Air Force struck a natural gas processing facility in southwestern Iran. The attack on South Pars gas field was the first time Israel struck natural gas facilities in Iran. Israeli and U.S. officials said the strike was coordinated with and approved by the White House. So, according to Axios, so, take it for what it's worth, I find them to be reputable. Trump knew. I personally find it difficult to believe that Israel would have done it without Trump's knowledge or against his wishes. But nevertheless, Trump decides to come out and put this statement out. So now what do we have? Okay. we have the head of one of the main intelligence people refusing to basically answer the questions and say Iran's an imminent threat. She also said that Israel and America have different goals, and she doesn't really know what Israel's goals are in this thing. We now have the president of the United States, who previously said, by the way, that it was unpredictable that Iran would be attacking its neighbors, despite the fact that everybody else knew. And now he's saying that Israel did this attack without his knowledge, and they did it out of anger, meaning basically they were emotionally unraveled, unhinged, and did this attack. These are not good signs. And again, I don't need the mainstream media to tell me this. I can see, I can hear. Right? So again, I have no doubt that the American military could obliterate Iran. None. That's obvious to me. The question has never been, could they do it? The questions are, do we have competent leadership? Are we going to know the truth? Is it constitutional? Does he have the will to do it? And on all of these, he's failing miserably.
Yeah, Michael, one of the things that the people who voted for him think he represents transparency and honesty because he speaks crassly. They confuse crass boorishness with honesty because he lacks the ability to be diplomatic. And in this case, he's throwing our major ally under the bus, focusing the attention on them in a similar way that Tulsi Gabbard is focusing all of the responsibility on President Trump. But throwing them completely under the bus and appearing, Michael, to be an ally of Qatar, to say that literally one of the 3 or 4 highest sponsors of terror around the world. These guys have harbored all of the brass of Hamas. These guys sponsor college and secondary school curricula that is terribly anti-Semitic, that dredges up Nazi tropes. I mean, this is a horrible, horrible government. And I can't help but think, Michael, he's going to come to the defense of Qatar at the expense of Israel. Does this have anything to do with maybe a $400 million plane that Qatar gave him? I mean, even if it doesn't have to do with the swag that he gets from these jerk-offs, it doesn't appear. The appearances are awful, right?
Right. Well, that's part of this was at the beginning of this whole thing. It was all part of my concerns. It's not Winston Churchill running the show here, right? It's not even FDR or Harry Truman running the show here. It's a guy that is a pathological liar, an emotionalist, and a pragmatist. He literally said the other day, "This is unfair. We've won this war, and now they're closing the Straits of Hormuz." Unfair? What the hell are you talking about, guy? I mean, it's just, there's just too much out there with, we don't know the objectives, shifting objectives. This for the freedom of the Iranian people, that's not really all that important. We're just going to leave the government intact. He is just a disaster, and I just hope that Americans, don't die because of it.
Well, Americans have already died because of this, Michael. I mean, considering that we're attacking a rather large country with what was supposed to be a formidable military, a surprisingly small number of service people have died. But they were just recently, I think, entertaining the idea of occupying the island where Iran distributes its oil as a way of choking off its oil supply and cutting off its economics, and of course creating a humanitarian crisis, which would spur the people, as they did when prices rose so high, to some form of revolt. And Michael, they were going to do that with Marines. Now, this is a guy who formerly said there were going to be no boots on the ground anywhere. So look, I mean, a lot of objectivists out there are like, well, this is the most momentous event that has happened in our lifetimes with respect to, foreign policy and with respect to issues with respect to conflicts around the world. And that's true. but they're banking on whether or not Trump will stick with whatever it is he's sticking to, stick to some coherent line of policy and see it through to a conclusion. And I've seen no evidence that he's going to do that, Michael.
I have not either.
If somebody in the chat can turn me on to evidence that he's not shifting policy, that he's not pathologically lying, that he will stick to some coherent end game and see it all the way through to the finish, let me know. Because publicly he's rebuking our ally in the Middle East, Israel, throwing them under the bus, making the potential enemy of many of the Arab states there who will listen to what he says and take that as a cue that perhaps our relationships with Israel are cooling somewhat. Look, tell me if this guy has a coherent policy. Tell me if you have confidence that he's going to see it through to the end. I know Israel does, because this conflict is a threat to their metaphysical existence. So they can't help but take it very seriously and have the end game of regime change.
Right.
That would certainly serve them. But what's ours? What's ours?
Well, I would like to know. So I think
as would I, and that's not unreasonable, Michael. It's not unreasonable to want that, and it's not unreasonable for us to request that the president do his constitutional duty and that the legislature do their constitutional duty, which is to hear the case and decide for the American people, our elected representatives. Since we pay the price for this fucking war, we are going to pay the price. We're the ones paying the price in inflated gas prices right now. We're the ones paying the price in taxation to pay for the war. And our sons and daughters are the ones paying the price for having to go to war and put their lives on the line. They should at least have a coherent policy and the backing of the American people and government fully behind them.
Amen.
So you want to talk about Rand Paul and his confrontation today?
Yeah, what'd you think about this?
Oh, I got to tell you, man, I liked it. I liked his confrontation with him. I thought he brought up a very coherent point. Should we have a guy who demonstrates a proclivity for off the cuff, comments, violence, endorsing violence, particularly against him, a fellow member of Congress?
Well, give the audience something. I mean, you got to tell them what happened, Mark.
Yeah. So hold on. Let me call up the thing so I can get. Let me call it up. Well, in the meantime, you talk.
All right. So this guy, I'll tell him. So this guy, Markwayne Mullin, has been nominated to replace the loser. What the hell was her name? Kristi Noem. So he's called up to replace Kristi Noem. This guy has a history of being a what's the word I'm looking for? A hothead. He was a hothead. And he, I guess, had previously said he could understand, Rand Paul was viciously attacked in 2017, broken ribs, had to lose, a piece of his lung. And this guy said it's understandable that someone would do it to him. He's also talked about how some people need a punch in the face. He almost got into a fight on the Senate floor. He has praised dueling and evidently thinks that dueling is still legal. And he praised the beating of Charles Sumner on the Senate floor with a cane. So that's the context.
Yeah. So, and Rand Paul rightly questioned whether a guy like this has the mentality that could head the Department of Homeland Security, which would put him in, folks, he would be an executive in charge of anti-terrorism tactics, and they're broadly, they're moving ICE around the country. Do you want a guy who is so easily inspired to use physical violence against people as a means of getting what he wants at the head of a major executive branch of the government responsible for enforcing laws, which Michael and I think you could agree with me, shouldn't be necessarily laws on the books and shouldn't be enforceable by the federal government? I mean, I think Michael and I would argue that the Department of Homeland Security should go. It shouldn't exist at all. It's redundant. We have multiple agencies that take care of this kind of thing. We don't need this. It's violated rights. It was predicated on the violation of rights. And we witnessed over the last few months exactly how they coordinated ICE in various states to violate the rights of American citizens and of people who were here, quote unquote, illegally. I know some people out there don't think those people have rights. I think they do, but silly me, I believe in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So I thought it was a legitimate question, Michael, and the guy never apologized for what he did. Not even there. He was given the opportunity to. He still didn't. He still stuck to his guns that dueling was okay, even though it was outlawed, 150 years?
Yeah, he said, what did he say? Dueling is still on the books, or we still, if it's agreed to. And Rand Paul told him it's been outlawed for 170 years, or whatever the number was. And what Rob Lankenheath, we will get to your comment. I just want to finish this topic. Ian Gilmore says the wanting to fight a guy at a Senate clearing is pretty clear evidence that he shouldn't be in charge of anything. Well, I agree with that, but there's a sort of reverberations, other things about it I don't like. I saw somebody refer this morning to Rand Paul as the liberal Tarian. So it's the predictable thing. If you oppose anything Trump does, you're a progressive, you're a liberal, you're a Democrat, you're a rhino, you're a leftivist, whatever. Nothing that actually has any rooting in reality other than you've opposed Trump. It's Trumpian metaphysics. Trump is your standard of everything. He's your standard of judgment. He's your standard of value. He's your standard of reality. And that scares the hell out of me, that there's so many people that have subordinated their consciousness to such a depraved imbecile.
Yeah, Michael, what we have in Trump is somebody, objectives will understand this term, who is a primacy of consciousness guy. This is a guy who does not look to reality for answers or solutions or for guidance. He looks to his own feelings. His feelings guide him. And having other people subordinate their own consciousness, their own faculty of reason to a guy who's a primacy of consciousness guy is the equivalent of the blind leading the blind. Effectively, they're disarming themselves, and he's disarmed already. He's effectively disarmed. What is he disarmed against? Interpreting reality accurately, which as the chief executive of the United States of America, we should demand that the president of the United States is pretty clued in to reality, Michael. That should be the first qualification. It should be the second qualification. The first qualification should be he doesn't want to be president of the United States. Second qualification should be he should be intensely tuned into reality. Third, he should be all about a commitment to individual rights. Those should be his primary directives through his entire presidency. And if that were the case, we might see some real change in Washington, folks. But that's not the case with this man today.
No.
And look, yeah, I think if this guy gets in, and there is every indication that he'll still skate through this process, Michael, even though he got some pushback today from Rand Paul, he might become the head of the Department of Homeland Security. And that's a frightening thought.
Yes. All right. So maybe we can take some questions now. We can expand the discussion a little bit. But so Rob Lakenheath asks or says, the Allies in World War II, both military and civilian leadership, made an uncountable number of strategic and tactical errors. We were nevertheless victorious against totalitarianism. Okay. So let's just take a look at a few things here. First of all, we had an ally in Russia. Let's just put that there. And Hitler made the disastrous mistake of trying to invade Russia. So that's there. And Russia was willing to do a significant amount of the fighting. 291,000 Americans died in battle in World War II. There's no way America is allowing that to happen here. That amount of deaths, they don't want even boots on the ground, never mind storming the beach at Normandy, right? They were also willing to stick it through till the end, and they were willing to obliterate, for instance, Dresden, Germany. They were also willing to use atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and willing to occupy West Germany and Japan for decades. We still have bases there. So, I mean, the comparison, it just doesn't work. We're not in those times. Americans are not tolerating that amount of deaths on either side. They're not going to allow the type of war that's necessary to accomplish that. There's certainly boots on the ground people would be up in arms over it. So it's just not comparable to World War II. And in World War II, we also had a situation where two countries declared war on us. One of them bombed the hell out of our naval base and killed 2,000 something people. I mean, it's so, and by the way, and Germany was on the march across Europe, looking to take it over. So it's not a comparable situation to World War II. So yes, there's always going to be mistakes in war. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that happens. But Trump, I think, has especially shown himself to be incompetent and unwilling to take responsibility. Contrary to Harry Truman's "the buck will stop here," Trump's is "the buck will stop anywhere but here." Those are significant problems that we have. Go ahead.
Even though he tries to paint himself as the "buck will stop here" kind of guy. Yeah, I want to say the main issue is that we were determined to beat totalitarianism. We were going to destroy Nazism and chauvinistic imperialism in Japan. They were determined to do that. Now, regardless of what tactical errors they made, they had an end goal in mind, and they went for it with everything that they had, and they geared the entire society towards that end, towards achieving that end. We don't have that now. We haven't had that since Korea. We don't invest in defeating totalitarianism. We make a show of defeating totalitarianism. We certainly could defeat totalitarianism, but we've chosen not to. Now, for whatever reason, whether it be that just war theory is what commands our generals now, is the moral concept behind which our generals get, whatever you want to say, America does not have that end goal to defeat totalitarianism, and I don't think they have the end goal of defeating Islamic totalitarianism. It's a very huge goal to try to achieve.
Yeah, and when they told Japan it was going to be unconditional surrender or nothing, they meant unconditional surrender. They didn't mean say unconditional surrender and then come out and say no, unconditional surrender just means they're beat. They don't actually have to say anything, which is what Trump said. So, I mean, there's just vast differences.
Yeah, that's scary, Michael. And look, you know what? During World War II, many of the top Nazi officers were going to defect, including Himmler, by the way, who was like the number 2 guy after Goring. I guess he was the number 3 guy. Goring was number 2. But he was willing to make a deal with the Americans whereby he would join forces with they would continue fighting on the Eastern Front. They would surrender to America, continue fighting in the Eastern Front, so that Himmler and those guys would get safe passage into the United States. They would be pardoned for all the crimes they committed. And guess what? Allen Dulles, who was in Bern negotiating with these folks as the main intelligence representative of the United States, said, no, we're not going to do that. Now, Michael, we might have been served greatly by that German army pushing against the Soviets. That might have wiped out both the Nazis and the Soviets at one time, for all we know. But he didn't take that route. He said unconditional surrender or nothing. Unconditional surrender or nothing. Trump says unconditional surrender or nothing, and then a week later he takes it back. All right. So we don't have a man in office with even a modicum of the decisiveness of the men that were living in the 1930s and 40s.
By the way, did you catch my interview with Ilya Somin the other day?
I haven't seen it yet. Talk to me about it. Tell me how good it is.
No, he's just really good. I just think people should watch it. It's on this channel, The Capitalist Corner. Ilya's great. He's a brilliant constitutional scholar, and I thought he did a very good job of explaining why the war is unconstitutional. He did a great job of explaining the War Powers Act. I thought he's very, very bright guy, and I highly recommend that everybody watch it.
Yeah, guys, if you think Michael and I are off, check that out. I'm going to check it out now, Michael. I'm inspired to watch it because we're not. We're not. And if you think we're pacifists, we're not. We're not. We just believe that there are principles of governance that we have to stick to. For what? Not just arbitrarily, but to protect the liberties of individual Americans here at home. That's what we are about. Maybe that's my capitalist thought of the day, Michael, because a lot of people have put us into the. I know. Maybe am I too early? Am I too early?
Yeah, you don't get to just say something and then declare that's your capitalist thought of the day.
No, I was going to go into a little bit more detail.
We got 10 more minutes.
Let's talk about. I want to address something Ian says here. Before the Civil War, duels were used by Southern senators to intimidate Northern senators and get them not to vote for abolitionist bills. Yes. And why? Because Southern culture was feudalistic and a pride culture. And so, they were based on violence and status, not status that you achieve from doing anything special, Michael, like becoming a great man of industry, but status because you were part of the landed gentry. Let's just put it that way. So the South held on to some very old world social means of governance. Why are you doing that?
I'm going to send this to Persephone. I don't want to spoil it. She can put it up and I'll play it. This is nuts. So Ian Gilmore is not the infamous troll, although somebody did accuse him of being a troll the other day. I came to his defense. I said he is not. He says that Nikos needs to fix his camera. Nikos is just great, and that's all I'm going to say about Nikos. He's upset his microphone, I guess, picked up the wrong mic and his camera. This is where I need to get stronger on my tech stuff. Persephone, did you get the thing that I sent you? Rob Lincolnheath, you are welcome, very, and thank you for calling them thoughtful responses. I appreciate that.
Michael, I did posit something to the American Capitalist Party board.
Hold on, okay, go ahead, then we'll play this.
It was roundly rejected by most folks, but I don't know that you contributed to the conversation. I actually wanted Nico to come out and speak at the American Capitalist Party.
Fuck yeah! Why? Oh, convention. Because he's a foreigner.
Because he's foreign.
Yeah.
But he's speaking for capitalism and Americanism, which I think he understands better than a lot of native-born Americans.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be legal though. That might be the problem. So check this out. We were just talking about Japan. So listen to this.
And we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? He's asking me, do you believe in surprise? I think much more so than us.
Wait, I didn't catch the beginning of that. Sorry.
Okay, hold on. I'll put it back up. Well, we can play it again. Hold on.
And because of that surprise, we knocked out. We went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? He's asking me, do you believe in surprise? I think much more so than us.
I'm sort of speechless, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm speechless. That is the most ham-handed and idiotic 45 seconds I think I've experienced in a long time from a sitting president.
Boy, oh freaking boy! I'm a little speechless myself, and that doesn't usually happen to me.
Guys, this is what you get when people say, well, Michael, they put in a businessman and he's transactional. They put in a schmoozer and a fraud. And so he schmoozes and frauds his way around these press conferences, and it comes out like this. He says utterly ridiculous, off-the-wall shit that makes him seem like he's mentally incompetent.
Yeah.
Who knows better about surprises than Japan?
Yeah, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, what you're bringing up? I mean, I don't know. Like, it's difficult because this was a very painful moment for America. Very painful also for Japan. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, and we're allies now. And a question about why you didn't tell your allies about the attack. He's talking about not telling your adversary about the attack and saying, who knows better about surprise? So is he also, by the way, equating the attack on Iran with the Pearl Harbor attack? Like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? And how does anybody still support him? It should have been done. When he made the comment about John McCain saying he likes his heroes not to get captured, that should have been it. Done.
Yeah. I mean, I'm speechless. This guy is completely inept. Oh, well, folks, some of you voted for him. I didn't. I hope you're having buyer's remorse. I can tell you I never voted for the guy, ever. I didn't even vote for the Libertarian candidate, Michael. I abstained from the Libertarian candidate for presidency this last time because nobody reflects my principles. Now, there are some that would call me, maybe I threw it all away, and I didn't. You know what, Michael? I think if we had a none of the above option on the ballots, you just might get these politicians to stop thinking that they have a mandate from the American people because a certain percentage of them voted for them. Imagine if they have a none of the above and 45% of the people vote none of the above.
So Ian Gilmore says, for someone who's been in prison, Michael doesn't seem to understand how crude and stupid some people can be. I've always understood how stupid and crude some people can be.
The president of the United States.
What I'm astounded by is how many. I mean, look, Gary Hart's political career was destroyed because he had an affair with Donna Rice.
Wasn't it worse, though, Michael? If I remember correctly, he not only had an affair, but he challenged reporters to catch him at. Like, didn't he actually challenge them?
He might have. I was a little kid, but I just remember that. And I remember a time when people said horrible things, that would be disqualifying. Now, maybe, of course, a lot of that is, just polished politicians who are scumbags behind the scenes. I get it. And like you said, people look at Trump and they mistake crassness for authenticity, for honesty. But I mean, like, you hear the things the guy says. I mean, it's not fair that they closed the Straits of Hormuz. That really? Why don't you go tattle on them? It's no fair. I mean, it's ridiculous. Saying nobody knew that they were going to attack their neighbors, blaming Israel, and that's all just in the last couple days. Now this, and still, no, he's Trump. We love him. I don't, but you get my drift. All right, let's go over the question from yesterday. Let's see what they had to say. I don't remember what question. I never remember the question that I asked, even though I'm the one that asked it. That's odd. And I've got a really good memory, too, so I don't know what that's all about. But let's see. Let's see if we even got any answers. Oh, who do they trust for media sources is what I asked. Teresa says, I trust podcasters like Michael who do thorough research using honest original sources and then provide thoughtful analysis of what they discover. AI has given me answers that contain verifiable errors so many times I don't consider them reliable. Thank you, Teresa. Ironheart says, ChatGPT, OpenAI is an arm of the state. Anthropic and Claude were always on the good side. I don't know if he was being sarcastic or what. Jenna Clean mostly uses Grok, but don't trust it 100%. She says, stay mindful. Thank you so much. All right, give your capitalist thought of the day, Mark.
Yeah, so, I mean, one of the things that people accuse the Capitalist Party of were being like libertarians with respect to this war in Iran, because the libertarians are against the war. But the libertarians are largely pacifists. The Capitalist Party is not pacifist. We just understand that the powers of war are invested in Congress, in the legislature. We understand that that is a check on executive power. We understand that the reason for that is because you, the American people, are the ones who will pay the price in every respect for any war that is declared. And the president and the intelligence community have to make a case to you before you accept that burden. All right. And but when you accept the burden, we accept it fully. In other words, the end goal would be to defeat the enemy. Period. And not to conduct forever wars where nothing is resolved, and the regime that started off the war remains in power, and the hills that we took get retaken by the regime, and nothing materially or philosophically changes over there. It would be in the hands of the American people, and we would be devoted to ending the threat permanently. And that's what makes us different. That's what makes capitalists different. We're individualists, Michael, and we hold each and every life to be sacred. And we understand that the Constitution protects each and every individual life for its sacredness. So we take this war very seriously. We're not pacifists. Anyway, go ahead.
Wow, I just got something great from my friend Carlos. He texted this to me. It's from the Fountainhead. Mr. Rourke, we're alone here. I believe this is Ellsworth Toohey talking to Howard Rourke. Why don't you tell me what you think of me? In any words you wish. No one will hear us. Rourke's response, but I don't think of you.
I love that. That is one of the best disses.
That's awesome. Okay, so the question now for tomorrow is, what is a topic that we haven't discussed here that you think is worth discussing, something that we're missing? What would you like to hear us talk about? That's the question. Please go to YouTube and answer it. It helps us out. All right, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, folks, remember to like and subscribe to this channel on YouTube. And remember to share it across media, all the social media that you can. We need to get this message out there, folks. Individualism, individual rights, inviolable property, and the difference between the American Capitalist Party and the Libertarian Party. It's imperative that people pick up this message and run with it. So we're going to be here tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Gives you 23 hours, folks, to check your premises. So please remember to do that. Check your premises. Peace.